So in this video, I am going to be going through some of the practice problems. As I mentioned earlier this week, that I would go through some of the practice problems for lessons 3 through 9. So I assigned them 3 through 5 originally, then I added in a second set, 6 and 7 last week, at the end of last week, and this week I assigned 8 and 9. What I would like you to do is to send me a message through Canvas if there is any problem within any lesson you would like me to talk about on Tuesday of next week. If you want to talk about a particular problem, please indicate the lesson number and then the problem number. That way I can prepare for that discussion on Tuesday of next week. So again, our focus is going to be multiple choice problems only. Primarily. So problem number 1. My recommendation when doing these problems is that you actually mark the picture. So it says here that angle A, which is the first letter, and angle E, which is also the first letter, they're the same. So I made sure that A and E were marked the same. B and D being the second letters, they're congruent, they're corresponding. So I made sure B and D were marked the same, and then C and F the same thing. For sides, the first two letters is AB, and the first two letters over here are E and ED. So that means that line segment AB and line segment ED are congruent because they're both the first and second letters. So if you look at my picture, you'll notice that they are marked the same way. BC is the last two letters, and DF are the last two letters, which makes those congruent. And again, you'll notice that my BC and my DF are both marked with 2 tick marks. So in these problems, you're basically trying to determine which statements are true and which ones are false. So B, C, and E are true. A is false because if you look at angle A, which is 2 tick marks, and F, which is 2 arcs, they're marked differently. And then D, B, C has a double tick mark, and ED has a single tick mark. So again, they're marked differently. So that's why A and D do not work here, but again, B, C, and E do. In problem number 2, they're just asking you to decide which of the transformations is correct, and that answer is A. Problem A. In problem 4, you'll notice that I marked the picture again based on the letters. So this H here and F, they got marked the same. E and G got marked the same, and F and H got marked the same. I'm talking about angles now. Now for F and H, the last 2 angles, I did not mark them, but because they're congruent, and so the unmarked angles are the same. First 2 letters, H, E, and F, G, you'll notice that my those segments, H, E, and F, G are both marked with double tick marks, and E, F, and G, H, those are marked with single tick marks. So again, I made sure that everything is marked correctly based on the arrangement of letters in the problem. So A, D, F, and G are all correct. B and C and E, what usually happens when you're naming triangles, that some letter is out of order, and then the last one here, EF, I'm assuming the 2 segments are marked differently. So EH is on the outside, double tick mark, and GH is on the bottom here, single tick mark. So they're not the same, but the other 4 are. In problem 6, you'll notice I did the same thing. I marked the picture, and B, C, and E are correct. If I look at A, AC, which is a triple, and EF, which is a double, they're marked differently. In problem D, angle BCA has a double tick mark, and FED, FDE, letter D, angle BCA, so it's a double tick mark, and EDF, EDF, that's a single. So this is a double, this one's a single, so that's why D doesn't work. All right, problem number 7. So we're still in lesson 3 here. Anytime 2 shapes are congruent, that means all the corresponding parts of the congruent figures are congruent. So they're using the word figures here instead of triangles. We used the word triangles when we talked about these in class. The reason why they're using figures is because sometimes you're given two quadrilaterals to compare, or maybe you're comparing two pentagons. So this is a more universal way of writing it, so that instead of you saying triangles here or T, we're going to put in the word figures. All right, so in lesson 4, first problem, what we're trying to do here is to figure out which of these statements go with these shapes. So I have two triangles with 3 pairs of congruent sides. That would be problem 3. Now, it only shows 2, but they get this shared line between them, so that means this segment should be marked because it's congruent to itself, and therefore both triangles show the congruency in the same way, side, side, sides. The answer here is side, side, side. Problem A, it's 2 sides and 1 angle, and that would be number 1, you have 2 sides followed by the angle. 2 sides followed by the angle. So number 1 is the answer to B, and then C, you have 2 angles and the side. So this is angle, side, angle, and angle, side, angle. Problem 4, you'll notice again I marked a picture here. So the answers are A and D. Everything else, based on the picture, will be in a different arrangement or different place. So for example, angle B has a double arc, angle F has a double tick mark. So they're not marked the same. And you should find that to be true for B, C, and D. All right, this is problem number 7, and the answers are A, B, and F. And then problem 8 is real similar to a previous problem. Anytime you have 2 congruent shapes, then you can say that the corresponding parts of the triangles, the corresponding parts of congruent figures, and again we've been saying triangles, but we're going to replace the triangles with figures so it's more universal. Those congruent figures are congruent. So this is like CPC, but instead of the T, it's going to be an F. C is the correct answer here. And then the last lesson, problem 3. I went ahead and drew pictures here. So A doesn't work. If I do 2 quadrilaterals that only have a 3 on it, I can make the shapes different. B doesn't work. I can take 2 rectangles that are both 3 by something and make sure that the heights are different. All rhombuses with at least one side 3 units are congruent. Here are one with 3 units, and this one's with 3 units. I can get 2 different shapes, so C cannot work. And then D, it does work. This one works. If I construct a square with side lengths of 3 and all 4 angles are right angles, and I try to construct a square with the same information, I can only produce the same square. So the answer is D. All right, this problem here is real similar to a previous one. We're doing 2 sides in the include angle, and that would be problem 3, it's side angle side. And then B is 2 angles in the include side, that's angle side angle. And then C is 3 corresponding sides, and that is side side side. Problem 6, I didn't mark the picture, but you want to make sure everything gets lined up properly. So angle D, for example, and B and D, they're both the second letters, so that means they would be congruent as angles. And then BA is the first 2 letters. It's matched up with DE, which also is the first 2 letters. So those are the corresponding parts that would be congruent. A is the first letter, and F is the last letter in problem A. That's why it doesn't work. Angle C is the third letter, and E is the first letter. Again, that's the reason why it's not going to work, because they got to be in the same place. And then BC, which is the second and third letters, and FE, which is the first and third letters, we're not even lining them up correctly lining these up correctly to show the congruency, because BC, which is the first 2 letters, should be lined up with DF, which are also the last two letters. So, B and D work. All right. That's it for the first three lessons. And I'm going to stop the video here. And then the next video will cover 6 and 7. And then the final video will cover 8 and 9.